Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we are talking about Google because Google has been illegally spying and retaliating against its workers according to the federal government. Now, here's what's going on, and this is coming from just a great article by Kate Cox of Ars Technica. I'm cribbing very heavily from her article, and it is appreciated. Now, the National Labor Relations Board, or NLRB, filed a formal complaint against Google this past Wednesday, alleging that the company has been, quote, interfering with, restraining, and coercing employees to interfere with their protected concerted activity workplace organization rights that are protected by law. Google fired several workers apparently late last year amid efforts to organize company employees. The 4 employees who were let go last year were Lawrence Berlin, Paul Duke, Rebecca Rivers, and Sophie Waldman. They all filed complaints with the NLRB almost a year ago, alleging that Google's, and I quote, draconian, pernicious, and unlawful conduct was an unlawful attempt to prevent workplace organizing. In other words, they were looking at unionizing within Google, and Google shut it down and shut it down quick. A few weeks later, or after that point, another former Google employee, Catherine Spears, was fired after she apparently developed a tool for the company's internal build of Chrome that would then notify Google workers of their legal rights to organize in the workplace. Spears, too, filed a complaint with the NLRB claiming that Google's retaliation was therefore unlawful. Google at the time alleged that both Rivers and Berlin, as well as others, were fired for, and I quote, intentional and often repeated violations of our long-standing data security policies. Now, according to the NLRB's filing, however, Google put several of the rules the employees allegedly violated in place in response to organizing efforts. And those rules were designed to, and I quote, discourage employees from forming, joining, or assisting a union. The company also unlawfully surveilled employees' protected activities by viewing an employee's slide deck in support of the unionization, as well as by interrogating employees about these protected activities under U.S. law. In late 2019, Google hired, and I quote, an infamous union-busting firm, end quote, IRI. Berlin mentioned this in his statement, and I quote Berlin. Google's hiring of IRI is an unambiguous declaration that management will no longer tolerate worker organizing. Management and their union-busting cronies wanted to send that message, and the NLRB is now sending their own message. Worker organizing is protected by law. Now, Google issued a statement supporting its actions, again placing blame on their former employees, and to quote Google has always worked to support a culture of internal discussion, and we place immense trust in our employees. Employees have protected labor rights that we strongly support, but we have always taken information security very seriously. We're confident in our decision and legal position. Actions undertaken by the employees at issue were a serious violation of our policies and an unacceptable breach of trusted responsibility. Now, I find the response to be very interesting, and I am not going to sit here and talk about the politics. I don't care if you love or hate collective bargaining or unions or anything like that. The bottom line is, in the United States, here, as you work for a company, you have the ability to attempt to organize for collective bargaining, also known as unionization. Now, by virtue of that, if we look at the tech industry, we have no real unions in the tech industry. We tend to be either contract workers or hit and run workers or just regular employees, but there's no local XYZ for tech workers in that sense. And so by virtue of that, it's interesting that Google, who has tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of employees, would have those employees say, hey, you know what, we want to have these protections that are afforded to us under the law. And here's Google saying absolutely not, and then saying that they're violating the security policies that Google has. Now, Google, like any company, should have good security policies that helps to maintain privacy, but I'm wondering, where the balance is between maintaining data security, also allowing, let's say, the employees of the organization to legally talk about things like organization or organizing within the union. But we also have a third thing that nobody is mentioning here, including in this article that I didn't see, and that's whistleblowing. And so where does an organizer begin and a whistleblower stops if they are taking sensitive data that could potentially get them fired? We also have whistleblower protections here in the United States, and I'm wondering where that falls. So I don't care if you love or hate unions. I am not getting into that discussion. I have some really good friends inside and outside of unions, and so you guys can all fight it out. My only point here is that this is a very interesting situation. We may actually see coordinated efforts then across the larger companies, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Oracles of the world, that may start to see unionization or collective bargaining happen among tech workers in the United States. And how do we balance that with privacy, with data security, as well as whistleblower protections that I think also essentially are integrated into this entire situation? If you're looking at somebody that says, I have to expose this information because it's negative to the employees to help us unionize, and the company is saying you can't expose that, it's against our security policy, and I think whistleblower is right in the middle. So we're going to see where this goes. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. Again, not getting political here, but this is the state of the world that we live in, and currently a organization within the federal government is telling Google that they are violating the law, they are violating their workers' rights. And so by virtue of that, they appear to be violating their workers' rights. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and let me know, and we'll see what happens in the future. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.